Hi, and welcome to Reflections of You, where we create projects to spread joy to others. Today, I'm so glad you could join me. We're going to make 2 cards using the Kitchen Classic stamp set and die set. One of them will be making our own stencil, and the other one will be making these bowls look realistic. I have chapters if you want to skip around. I am so excited. Let's get started. I have a plastic file folder that I have used for the stencil. I have everything linked below, but you can also find these at Walmart, OfficeMax, Target, and you can use this with any dies that you have. So you don't need this die set to make a stencil. However, I'm going to show you in this video all the mistakes that occurred. I'm just going to be realistic. I'm using an Anna Griffin die cutting machine. I want you to see the process because it doesn't matter what die cutting machine you have. This is heavy material and you're going to have to find the perfect sandwich. So it's going to take some testing. I'm adding the metal shim that I normally do not use or need when die cutting. But again, this is heavy material. And I run that through the die machine. It did not cut it out as much as I wanted it to. And I was like, well, I don't want to tear these because I want to have a nice stencil. So I decided to get 100-pound cardstock and add that into my sandwich and see if I could get a little bit more pressure. So just figure out what works best in your die cut machine and also with your dies, because you know different dies are made differently too. So you just have to find that perfect sandwich. But it's worth it because once you create your die, you can use it in so many different ways. You can cut your die to any size you want. And when this didn't come out all the way, I pulled out my fussy cut scissors and I just cut those bowls out. And when I was cutting those bowls out, I thought, well, great. I could use these items on a card. I could stamp on them with StazOn ink. But that will be for another day. Today, I already have in mind what I want to do for the 2 cards. And I love having the stencil because I do a lot of cooking layouts in my scrapbook, and I will be able to use the bowls for my scrapbook layouts as well as cards. So I can keep this stencil in my stash. So again, make the stencil any size you want for whatever projects you think you will be using it on. Now, another tip I have is a lot of times I make my cards, I cut them, I score them, but I keep them flat. And when I'm ready to use them, I pull them out and use my bone folder. And the reason I do that is it saves more space and I can cut out a lot of cards and I don't have to worry about the bulk. Now, I will be using Post-it note tape to hold down this stencil. I am hoping to get a grip mat soon, but my Post-it note tape does the job perfectly, and any way that you hold your stencils down should work. I do want to know what type of grip mat you recommend because I can't decide. There's so many. So if you have any suggestions, let me know. I have the cardstock here, and I want to make sure that it's just scraps to cover this up. I'm using Simon Says ink. I'm using the yellow, green, and blue. I decided to use classic colors that go with Pyrex, and I even make a mistake in making this card, and I want to show you so you don't make the same mistake. But I will be able to use the card. And what I did is I didn't cover up that yellow bowl. And when I go to put down this blue ink, I get it on that yellow bowl and it turns that little side of the bowl green. And I'm like, oh no, I shouldn't have done that. But I will try to fix it, but it's not going to work. I'll tell you that now. And I am going to have to cover it up with a sentiment, but it'll be all right. So I started collecting Pyrex bowls, and that's why I love this set. My husband inherited his Pyrex bowls from his grandmother, and we would go antiquing, and I would find different Pyrex things. So I collected a refrigerator set. I collected some divided dishes and things, and I love to use them, and I love to display them. Now, I printed out my own sayings for these cards. You're a classic, you're so retro. And I used the die to cut out a red bowl because normally Pyrex bowls are blue, green, yellow, and red, so that I could have that sentiment for my card and the different ways I can use it. So this is the card that I created. I like it. You're so classic, and then put happy birthday inside. If you like this, consider subscribing and give it a thumbs up, and on to our next project. I picked some more beautiful Pyrex colors that I'm going to die cut these bowls out of. I am just so excited about this. I love to make things on cards look realistic. I do not know why I like to do that, but I love it. And I think the recipients, when they see those, love it also. And the best way is to use glossy accents. Now, you can decorate these bowls without the stamp set using the dies, or you can use the stamp set and decorate the bowls. And I decided to use the stamp set to decorate, and I'm going to use white pigment ink. Hero Arts makes a great white pigment ink, and this is a Stampin' Up! White pigment ink, and I will ink each bowl. Now you can make all the bowls with the same pattern as if it's a set, or you can do different patterns on different bowls, and I wanted to do different patterns. Another tip is I just use baby wipes to wipe away that white pigment ink. You do have to set it to the side to dry or it will smudge, and so you want to give time in between the project for that. You're also going to let you know this is going to be a 2-day card. And when I say a 2-day card, because of the elements that we're using, it's going to take it overnight to dry. But that's all right. It's not this white pigment ink that has to take that time. It's the glossy accents. And I love how each of these bowls turned out, and I really wanted to try all the stamp sets and have a different bowl with a different pattern. But you do you, and you decide what you want. Another thing, because we're going to be using a large amount of glossy accents, you want to make sure you cut out 2 extra bowls in white of the same color and glue all those down to give sturdiness. Another great thing about doing this is inside a Pyrex bowl, it's white. So it really makes it look realistic. I just absolutely love it. But the reason we're really doing it is to give those die cuts strength to hold that glossy accents. I am only going to show myself putting glossy accents on one of these elements. And I'm using a piece of yellow cardstock behind here to hold these pieces so I can put them to the side to dry overnight. And that's what has to dry overnight because of the amount. So I go on the outside of the die set and then I work my way inward on these large pieces. And so the two tips here are put it on something that you can remove it off your craft space so that you can work. And then look at how beautiful that is, and make sure you build up those so they hold the strength of it. So I have an A2 card here, and I have this gingham print that I think looks really kitcheny, and I'm going to put that down. I have cut it to 5 1/4 by 4 inches. And you can stack up these bowls any way you want. They can be inside the bowl, tilted, stacked on top. I like to hide the bowl down. Another thing for putting these bowls together is your need to use a double-sided adhesive. It's just too strong, too heavy of a piece that you need something strong to hold it together. Use your bone folder. That's another tip to really adhere that, and it will just pop right off and make it easy to put on your card. I stamped the sentiment, and I'm actually going to stack the bowls on top of the sentiment as if it was like a little shelf. And you want to make sure that you put some of that double-sided tape up close to the top, so when you tuck in your bowl will stay there. And you will continue to repeat that process. But I just love how realistic these bowls are. And I think the recipient will definitely have joy when they receive this card. I hope that you like these ideas and it gave you inspiration. Here's another video, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for joining me.